I'm used to seeing our darshanit up here as a gabbai, or gabbait, providing instruction and doing so in a way that is both kind and gracious. So it is a pleasure to be able to share the bima this morning with Cindy Olch, who will now provide us instruction with both grace and kindness as well, I am absolutely sure.
This isn't very scary. I know you all. Shabbat Shalom. Early in the morning of March 27th, I was trying to get a few minutes of extra sleep when my cell phone chirped with a message from our son Ben in faraway St. Louis. Reaching for my glasses, I squinted to read the screen. "Did you hear about magic?" he wrote. Immediately I knew, as I would guess most of you would, that he was talking about Magic Johnson. Being a mom, though, of course, my first thought was, oh my God, what happened to Magic? Is he okay? Ben was letting me know, of course, that Magic had been the name behind the group that just purchased his beloved Dodgers. Irvin Magic Johnson is a former pro basketball player who captured the hearts and minds of Angelenos in the 70s and 80s as he led the Lakers to the championship 5 times. A charming, handsome, and energetic young man and a wizard with a basketball who fully lived up to his nickname, his real successes, in my mind, began after 1991 when he was forced to retire from basketball after being diagnosed with the HIV virus. After his retirement, he grew into a successful businessman and philanthropist who invested in lower-income areas of Los Angeles, encouraging employment and growth. In addition, for the last 21 years, he has been a vocal advocate for HIV/AIDS research and safe sex. So, you might wonder, what does Magic Johnson have to do with Parshat Shmini? Shmini, meaning 8, refers to the opening of the tent of meeting or tabernacle on the 8th day of its consecration. There are 2 distinct parts to this parsha. After Moses gathers all the Jews together, Aaron offers various sacrifices to God, and all witness God's presence descending upon the sanctuary. Moses and Aaron bless the people in God's name. At this point, a heavenly fire descends and consumes the sacrifices on the altar. Nadav and Abihu, Aaron's 2 eldest sons, then bring an unauthorized sacrifice to the altar. But in this case, they themselves are consumed by the heavenly fire. Moses orders the bodies removed from the tabernacle and instructs Aaron and his remaining sons to abstain from the morning rituals, considering that they had to continue serving in the sanctuary on behalf of the Jewish people. They comply, and Aaron is silent. Later, Moses becomes angry because Aaron and his surviving sons burn rather than eat a sin offering. Aaron explains to Moses that they did not eat the sin offering as commanded because of their great sadness. Moses understands and apologizes for his displeasure. In the second part of the parsha, God gives the commandments of kashrut to Aaron and Moses, explaining the rules in great detail. The reading ends with a reminder that we become holy by abstaining from eating all forbidden foods. So, why did God punish Nadav and Abihu so severely? It's a question that the rabbis and we, the laymen, have struggled with over the generations. I read many suggested answers, from the idea that Nadav and Abihu felt that they were above the rules and could do what they wanted, to the concept that they were so enthusiastic that they just wanted to be closer to God so they could honor him more. Some commentators suggested they might have been drunk or trying to supersede their father's office, or that they were actually punished for seeing God. Since it's pretty clear that our teachers could not agree on a good reason for this tragic death, I don't think I'm going to discover it either. I see these deaths as a tragedy, which is final, and the reason, to me, is not as important as the aftermath. For Nadav and Abihu there was no future, but for their families there was. My interest lies in the way that their father and brothers reacted to their tragic deaths. I'm more interested in how they and we deal with life's challenges and the choices we make in response. So how did Aaron react to the death of his sons? We hear that he was silent, that he held his peace, that he said nothing. Was he shocked into silence? I would think so. Did he want to react, to rail against God, cry, curse? Probably. Nechama Leibowitz recounts, Vayidom Aharon. This implies patience and resignation, as in the text. Resign thyself unto the Lord and wait patiently for him. Psalms 37:7. Aaron regained his peace of mind, and his soul did cleave to God, who is sanctified through his holy ones. But Leibowitz goes on to say that this silence or resignation is followed on the same day by another incident in which Aaron does not appear in such a patient mood. Moses discovers that a part of the sacrifice has been burnt and not eaten, and chastises Aaron's surviving sons because of this. Aaron responded, and Aaron spoke unto Moses, Behold, this day have they offered this sin offering and burnt offerings before the Lord, and there have befallen me such things as these. And if I had eaten the sin offering today, would it have been well-pleasing in the sight of the Lord? And Moses heard that, and it was well-pleasing in his sight. According to Leibowitz, what Aaron meant was, if I restrained myself and did not weep in order to show publicly my acceptance of the divine judgment, would it have been well-pleasing in the sight of the Lord to partake of the sin offering in joy, whilst my heart is full of grief and sorrow, especially when the meat of the sacrifice has to be eaten in joy and not in grief? Leibowitz says that Aaron was not afraid that he had lost God's favor, but his personal grief interfered with him carrying out the service in the right spirit. He was forbidden to rend his clothes as a sign of mourning, but he was not obliged to force himself to rejoice. The sacrifice does not bring the worshiper nearer to the divine automatically, without it being accompanied by the proper state of mind. In other words, Aaron was silent. He chose not to disturb the status quo, not to cause the Jews to doubt God's word. But he also allowed himself to mourn, to gather the strength to go back to God's work when he was ready. His surviving sons, Eleazar and Itamar, continued to serve as priests with their father, with Eleazar becoming Kohen HaGadol after Aaron. The high priesthood remained in his family until the time of Eli, who was a descendant of Itamar. Aaron and his surviving sons chose to continue God's work as leaders of the priesthood. They chose to accept their brothers' deaths, but on their own terms, allowing themselves to grieve in their own way while carrying out their responsibilities to the Jewish people. They had other choices. Aaron and his sons could have chosen to give up their roles as priests, to abandon their places as leaders of the people after these undeserved deaths. But they chose to continue to lead and set an example for the Jewish people. We all make choices in our lives, some major, like those of Aaron and his sons, and like Magic Johnson, some more routine, more day-to-day. But there's more to this parsha than the story of Nadav and Abihu. It may seem strange that the daily rules of kashrut are also included in this parsha. The two sections seem unrelated, but not really. Rabbi Lauren Eichler-Birkin of JTS writes, by now we're familiar with the theme. We must make choices. Not all animals may be sacrificed. We must make distinction. Not all fires are godly. We must make separations. There is a time and a place to mourn, to drink, to feast. God spoke to Moses and Aaron and gave them the rules of kashrut and instructed them to give these rules to us, the Jewish people. These rules are day-to-day choices and decisions that we as conservative Jews face every day. Each time we eat, shop, or prepare food, we're thinking about the choices we have made. These everyday functions become conscious choices and a reminder that we have chosen to live a kosher life, not just in our food choices, but in the moral and positive way we choose to live our lives. We can even understand our reactions to tragedy as a form of making choices. Illness or death is not a punishment. It just is. We all suffer. We all eventually die. We can make choices, though, to learn by looking at our own and others' lives. We can honor the memory of loved ones as we gain insight into our own lives. 12 years ago, we almost lost our eldest daughter to liver disease. She survived due to a young person who made a choice to donate his or her organs, and to the family that respected that choice. She survived due to people who chose to become nurses and doctors. She survived due to people who chose to be researchers and technicians who discovered the techniques of organ transplant and medicines to fight rejection. We, her family, survived because the choices of our families and friends to support us and stand by our side. She survived because of her choice to go forward, to go back to school, to live a full life, and to be responsible about caring for herself and her loved ones. Our dear friends who have lost children, spouses, and other family members have made a choice to honor their memories by living their own lives to the fullest, by volunteering in the community, by sharing their stories to help others, and by inspiring us with their strength. Larger-than-life characters like Magic Johnson and Aaron and his sons are not the only heroes. Look around you. There is one next to you. Look inside. You are one too. Shabbat Shalom.